everybody, what's going on? I am Jamie Dawn, your evolutionary revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of March 24th through about April 2nd or so. A couple of things that are happening. I just want to double check my settings here, make sure that my audio is up. Yep. Okay, good. A couple of things that are happening in my world. We are actually in the springtime now because the sun is officially in the sign of Aries. And here in Reno, it is absolutely beautiful this week. And can't believe it. Here we are almost into April already. Boy, time is flying. I will have the opportunity to visit with my son and daughter-in-law and my grandson soon, so I'm looking forward to that. And we've got all kinds of activities going on, some pretty big stuff this week with a new moon in Aries on Saturday. But before that happens, just as that's about to happen, we do still have Mercury and Venus retrograding, and they're going to retrograde back into the sign of Pisces, which is where Neptune is finishing its transit. And Neptune takes about 13 years to go through all the signs. And so this is going to be a big move for Neptune because it moves into the sign of Aries for the first time since 1861. So that's kind of a big deal. If you think back to what was happening, any of you history buffs during the let's say late 1800s, 61 to 75, when Neptune was in Aries, we had the American Civil War. So in astrology, we pay attention to the patterns and themes that show up. Now, I'm not saying that we're necessarily going to have another civil war in that traditional or that historical sense, but tensions are high. There's a lot of things happening in our country right now. In my country, if you're watching this in another country, maybe not yours, but at least in the United States, there's a lot of unrest and a lot of things that are going on that could create some upheaval. So definitely paying attention to that over the next several years here. But let's talk about the Aries new moon first, as that, like I say, that does happen on Saturday. Aries new moons are so powerful for initiating new things, fresh starts. This is the epitome of a fresh start, especially because we do have springtime here on the northern hemisphere. And a lot of, my beloved's father brought over some daffodils from his yard the other day. And so I have those on my counter and they're just beautiful and fragrant and just reminds me of how spring has sprung, new life is here. And hopefully we're feeling this injection of new life that is starting to, we'll say, pulse through our veins, if you will, new lifeblood. And we'll start to see a lot of energy at this new moon. It may not be a dark moon like it technically is, where the sun and moon are canoodling with each other. And you technically do not see the moon when it is new. However, I would say that, and it does cause us to get a little bit more internalized, especially with the retrogrades of Mercury and Venus. But again, with it being Aries, which is all about initiating, it's about driving, it's passionate. Anybody have a lot of Aries in their charts, then happy birthday to all the Aries out there. But also, if you do have a pretty heavy Aries influence, then you probably have a lot of oomph about you, a lot of get up and go and the need for getting things done or action. That's very Aries-like. And so when we're setting our intentions, the intentions might be around, how do I get more done? Maybe you've been mulling around on some things that you set as intentions or as goals even over the last several months. And you're ready to start seeing this come to fruition. You see all those seeds you planted to start to sprout. Yeah. And so as you're planting the seeds for this new moon, you're really looking at ways in which maybe you have new growth, new self-discovery. Maybe it's time for more self-care. Maybe it's time for you to go on a trip. It just all depends. I'm going to have new moon memes posted on my social media by sign. So make sure you look at your sun, moon, and rising sign to see where it may influence you in particular in those various areas. So I love new moons for, like I say, it's a monthly reset to be able to just say, this is my intention. The thing about setting intentions, I do want to offer this, is that if we don't revisit them and we don't put clear SMART, the acronym SMART for setting goals for these intentions, then they really just seem fallow and they're not going to go anywhere. So it's going to be really important that we come back to our intentions and revisit them and say, check in, how am I doing on these? Have I actually gotten out of bed and done the things I said I was going to do, and or stopped doing some of the things I said I was going to stop doing, things like that. So make sure we come back and check on that as well. Speaking of checking in, the Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, I imagine there's a lot of things stirring up. I know I've heard from a lot of you that it has stirred up some things from the past that need to be healed. Maybe there's old stories that are playing out in our mind that we are really wrestling with and trying to come to some sort of new pattern for ourselves, because we need to wrap up the past and say, you know what, that was then. What am I working with right now? How do I move forward? And in particular, when we're working with Mercury and Venus, a lot of that has to do with communication and relationships. And so I imagine the stories we tell ourselves or the conversations that we have with others has a way of stirring some things up, some stories maybe in our own mind that we've been telling ourselves for a while that need clarification. You know, I've heard a few of you are having transportation issues, computer issues. That's all very mercurial. And maybe you've had to spend some extra money. That's a little Venusian, because, you want to know what someone values, which is all about Venus, see where they spend their time, energy, and money, right? So things like that may be popping up for us. One other little pin on the map that I just want to check in as well is Pluto in Aquarius. We're seeing how technology and science are moving way ahead. I thought it was fascinating with the astronauts that they finally made it home. Yay. But what was an 8-day journey turned into a 9-month journey for them. And the fact that they returned, the RE, they returned home during the Mercury Venus retrograde, quite appropriate. So I'm happy that they are home. But I think, these are times right now where we get to revisit, redo, and really look at, like I say, Pluto in Aquarius. How are we using the powers that we have, the power of the mind, the power of our choice are we using it for good, or are we using it for harm? So let's talk about Neptune and Aries. And Neptune is a planet associated with dreams and illusions, spirituality, creativity. And in the assertive sign of Aries, then there's a lot of push for the busting through the dreams, taking off the rose-colored glasses. Maybe there's more of a pioneering spirit when we have Neptune and Aries, especially when we're working with, let's say, maybe there's new spiritual quests that we're going to be taking on, and looking for ways in which we can involve ourselves in more spiritual pursuits and innovative, creative endeavors. There's also a time where we get to re-examine personal and collective identities. So Aries is all about me. It's an identity thing. And maybe there's questions about who we are, what do we stand for, which again can lead back to when Neptune was in Aries back in 1861 to 75, that American Civil War. It really challenged what we stood for, as a country, as individuals, as families, that sort of thing. There's also a great potential for conflict, because assertiveness is an Aries thing, and aggression is an Aries thing. And then you couple that with Neptune having these ideals or these dreams, well, they can clash, where it's like, I wanted to have this done, but Neptune's much more passive about it, offering visions and beliefs. But Aries says, let's do this now. Let's get it done. Let's stop talking, start doing, kind of thing. So there could be some mixing up of energy when that is happening. So one other little pin on the map too is Saturn. our planet that has to do with structure and discipline and consolidation, also enters Aries on May 24th of this year. So we're going to have Neptune and Saturn both making these big changes into these signs. And when you have a co-presence of Saturn and Neptune in Aries, that's where dreams are structured. That's where dreams it's like heaven comes to earth, because Saturn wants to manifest. We'll talk more about that as it gets closer, but we want reality. And that actually can be a really beautiful thing where there's groundbreaking developments in various areas of our lives, various fields. So this could be a really beautiful thing to work with. I'm going to point back to this Aries new moon, come back to that, setting intentions of what do I dream? What is it that I really ultimately want to manifest and bring it into some form of reality? All right, you guys, I really hope that this helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Come find me at jamiedawn.com and want to listen. And I look forward to connecting with you. Have a great Aries new moon week. Take care.